After weeks of waiting, we finally know what the state's next budget looks like. Lawmakers approved a final budget deal in late April after wrestling with a multi-billion-dollar deficit all session long. But the big question was what Governor Bob Ferguson would do with it. We now have answers, and joining me now to talk about that is Olympia Correspondent Jeanie Lindsay. So, Jeanie, like I just said, all eyes had been on the governor and what he would do with the budget. First, tell us a little bit about the budget that lawmakers sent to him.
Yeah, the $78 billion 2-year budget really included a combination of billions in new taxes on businesses and various services. It also included billions in cuts to various programs and services across the state. Some of those cuts included delayed program expansions in childcare, reductions in higher education, and also delays and reductions in some health areas. So really just a combination of various numbers to really close this multi-billion-dollar budget gap that they had been, seeing coming for quite some time.
So let's talk about what the governor did with it, how he handled it.
Yeah, I mean, he mostly left it alone. He didn't make any reductions really to the tax changes. There was one tax deduction change around like community banks and residential home loans that he decided to cut out. But as far as the major increases that are going to bring in the most money for the state budget, he didn't really touch those. He did make some additional cuts in addition to what lawmakers approved. He said that there was about $25 million of various programs and studies that he decided to cut out of the final spending plan, which in the grand scheme of a $78 billion budget isn't a lot, but for those particular programs, it's pretty significant.
So this was Ferguson's first session and budget as governor. Do we have a clearer picture of him now and how he will be leading?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into it, there were a lot of expectations just based off of his campaign and sort of the rhetoric of leading up to the election last year. And then he sort of flipped some of those expectations on its head with just the way he talked all session long about a cuts first approach to the budget. He pushed back on Democrats' original plans for a major wealth tax. And so Republicans were very excited about this governor who had a little more conservative tendencies, if you will, compared to his predecessor, Jay Inslee. Ferguson also was meeting with Republicans throughout session, which Jay Inslee certainly did not do that. But when it came down to the final budget legislation and the final, signature, I think that Ferguson ultimately was more aligned with his party than I think some people had anticipated, just the way that he was talking about the budget this session. So certainly interesting. He's a first-year governor. This was his first budget, his first session, but ultimately Bob Ferguson's a Democrat, and he aligned with his Democratic legislators when it came to the final signing of this.
Something else I wanted to get your thoughts on, Jeanie, given the big tax push that majority Democrats made during the session, do you expect any fallout for the lawmakers who are up for re-election this year?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see lawmakers pushing for, tax changes in major election years. Certainly not last year. There were some things on the ballot, but I think that part of the reasoning there is that it is challenging to, talk about tax increases and make those changes, even if an individual lawmaker didn't vote for them. That's still your party in charge. So I would be surprised if this didn't come up quite often in the campaigns that we're going to see this fall, especially in the more competitive races between Democrats and Republicans. I know that there's a mixed district that is going to have some election action going on. So I would be shocked if this didn't come up and make things a little bit harder for the lawmakers who are running to try and keep their seats.
All right, Jeanie, thank you so much for talking through all of this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you for all your reporting on state government over the past 3 sessions. This is our final chat as you'll be moving on.
I know. Yeah, I'm certainly going to miss it. But, I'm excited for the next adventure that awaits. So thank you for all the time that we've spent talking with each other. I appreciate it.
We do appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck. That's Olympia correspondent Jeanie Lindsay.